Hi, there is something that I wanted to talk about more, since now we are still talking about feelings, and in the last video I talked about healing from the past and from those feelings, or some feelings that might be stuck, and basically it was about stopping running away or resisting any kind of feeling in order to go into it now in the present moment. And I don't really know what I talked about, but I know that I wanted to make a video about grantees. It's just another feeling, and I don't think it should be extremely important. You should not have your mind stuck on this, where the same thing would be with other videos that I've made, like the layers of the body or the chakras. If you hear me talk, you can hear that I at least try to show you that it's not so important. It is not something to be dwelling on or something to get too entangled with. Like, yes, my layer of this, when we now talk about, yes, the Brahma Granthi, I can feel it in my body, and like I need to, and it works like this, and blah blah blah. The thing is, the knowledge is not important. It is of no true value to you, but it is helpful, and it can help in order for you to have more trust, a slightly more understanding, and be able to surrender. It can help with your discernment. So now let's talk about grantees, which is something that I know I have been looking around at one point. Like I found out about grantees in the past, and I was trying to look around, and there was no one who would properly explain it. Googling it or like looking around, I could not find really anyone explaining it simply, or it just didn't click until I found one person who had like 2 views and 3-hour video where he explains it, and I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. Back then, now I wouldn't watch it. But so we have 3 grantees in the body. They're called psychic knots. Now I will be reading it, and then I will just simplify it or talk about it very simply, okay? So, according to the yogic tradition, a granthi or a knot is an energetic and psychic contraction preventing the free flow of prana, the energy, along the main energy channel in the subtle body. Okay, the granthis impede the awakening of the chakras and the rising of Kundalini Shakti, which is the fundamental force of our being, generally lying dormant in Muladhara. In order for Kundalini to achieve its final upward movement to Sahasrara. Excuse me, I just woke up and my voice is a little shaky. It must first pierce through each of these 3 granthis. These 3 psychic knots are located at the level of Muladhara, Anahata, and Agna. Each granthi can be associated with a particular state of contraction of the personal consciousness. Okay? Such a knot is the expression of a form of attachment that presents an obstacle on the path to higher knowledge, therefore obscuring the truth of our essential nature. When the granthis are pierced, Kundalini will rise spontaneously, bringing a profound expansion of consciousness. This is when, according to Swami Sivananda, the yogi drinks the nectar of immortality. There is the first one, which is Brahma Granthi. It represents the first energetic and psychic contraction in the human being. Okay, it's in Muladhara and symbolizes the attachment to the material world. It is linked to the survival instinct, the urge to procreate, instinctive tendencies, passivity, desire, and inertia. When Brahma Granthi is pierced or transcended, Kundalini is able to rise beyond Muladhara without being held back by the attractions and instinctual patterns of the personality. That is basically the first thing that we talked about on this channel. Transcending the Muladhara. It is just a concept, transcending the Muladhara. It can be felt physically, yes, you can feel it, but this whole thing is just bunch of concepts and labels. The most simplest way to put it is that from those compulsions, unconscious behavior, where you just act out and live out your conditioning, and there is a sense of just living, just surviving as a person, becomes something a little higher. Symbolizes the attachment to the material world. Once you are unhappy, unsatisfied with the material, there can arise a longing to go beyond it. And just that longing and that desire starts a certain fire within you. And here we can see it is linked to survival instinct. Again, just surrendering and trying to go beyond that can be enough for you to transcend this first Granti, this first Brahma Granti. And it is stopped by that ignorance, by that. And by ignorance, I mean you not wanting to do anything, not wanting to change, you wanting to have things stay the same as they are. The urge to procreate, instinctive tendencies are just compulsions, eating compulsions, your habits, addictions, all of these keeps the consciousness in lower levels, in lower identity. It doesn't mean that. I don't want to say it keeps you down there, but in the lower levels of consciousness. Yes, passivity and desire. Yes, it's the desire for these ignorant things, the addictions and the compulsions. So when you have that longing, that fire starts, and you start to, within yourself, it is just in that surrender and in that seeing that it is unsatisfactory, it will not fulfill you, then just out of you dropping these things, you can have enough relaxation for the knot to disappear. That's why I make a video on survival instinct, on transcending the fear of death or transcending your death. At this level, you take yourself as the person, as the body which will die. And it might be just my approach, because later you find that what you truly are does not die. But on this identity, it is difficult to let go of your survival instincts. And this doesn't mean that you don't have the survival instincts anymore, I will go and jump off a cliff. No, this means that you, within your psyche, do not fear it anymore. You have accepted it. And I think I've said before, many people are like, yeah, of course I die. I accept it. But then something hurts them a little and they go, oh, I'm dying, oh no, help. And they freak out and they cannot truly accept it. And the acceptance of it is gonna move you a lot. So that's why I talked about accepting the death and meditating on your death. Because only that by itself could be sufficient to move past this Muladhara, transcend this first knot. Because no longer the energy is stagnant, there is a desire to go beyond the physical and discover the truth. And already that is a lot. So once that happens, the energy is able to go beyond Muladhara into sacral and touches the solar plexus. If you've had that Kundalini awakening, as people say, it is every time very different. It has different feelings, experience. It does not matter. But if it happens, you know, and then your energies are now touching sacral and solar, which is the second Vishnu Granti. The second of the Grantis is located in Anahata chakra, according to some yogis, it is located at the level of Manipura, between Manipura and Anahata. It is associated with emotional attachment, attachment to limited forms of compassion, and doing good deeds. It is the knot that creates the desire to preserve ancient traditions and spiritual orders. Even the devotion to scriptural knowledge and the respect for spiritual orders becomes a bond. Only by true discrimination, knowledge, and faith can one untie the knot of Vishnu and realize the purpose behind the cosmos, which is a part of the divine plan. Okay. Once Vishnu Granthi is transcended, the awareness of the universal quality of energy is more easily recognized. In this way, the yogi will have more natural access to the universal source of energy, rather than having to draw energy from the localized centers within the being. Okay, that doesn't really tell you much, or maybe you do not catch it. So the second knot, which is, I would say it's on the Manipura, solar plexus, rather than Anahata, because once you go beyond this one, Anahata gets touched. Anahata opens up. Your heart opens up. So here, you're probably refining your ego. You are trying to be a good person, you're trying to do good, and you maybe do some service, or you take yourself as this spiritual seeker. This is where you are in the middle of it. And when you are in the middle of this spiritual identity, of this spiritual person that is trying to get to the enlightenment or anything of that sort, that is what is blocking you. And here they say, it is a knot that creates the desire to preserve ancient traditions and spiritual orders. Here even this knowledge of the grantees and really being stuck on it, and oh yes, the chakras and all those things, they stop you actually from going beyond this grantee. Here is where the knowledge becomes a hindrance. Here is where trying to be a good, bad, better, or anything person stops you. In the most simplest sense I can say this. As long as you take yourself as the doer of the action and the thinker of your thoughts, you are here. As long as you don't have the discernment to see that you are not doing or the doer, thinking or the thinker, you will not go beyond this. And on this level, we can say is where you are to wake up. This is where you wake up in the Satori sense, to go beyond this part. You recognize what is the consciousness itself. You recognize yourself here. And it is very simple. So I am looking forward to talking about that. Because now what I'm doing is I'm trying to appeal to the ego of the people who are the spiritual seekers, who are trying to get the enlightenment or anything like that. So that's why I make videos about chakras. But it is much more simpler, and I'm trying to see how many people are gonna notice these videos as we talk about chakras. But it's not really about the chakras. It's about who you are. Going beyond the Vishnu Granthi, you recognize it. And then in the recognition of that, which you are not, you can go beyond this Granthi, beyond the Manipura, and the heart opens up, and bliss comes in, happiness comes in, but the ego still plays in you. So again, simply, Vishnu Granthi is there, and it can be felt. Like this sensation can be felt, but it's the identity and belief into you being the doer and thinker, into you being a separate entity. Once you recognize yourself as not the one who's thinking thoughts and doing the action, basically you not being the body or the mind, the energies truly recognize it, experientially recognize it, not just think it. You hear somewhere on YouTube, you are the consciousness, you're already free. And you go, okay, I'm already free. It doesn't work like that. It's not that. You need to experience it. Once that recognition happens, more surrendering is able to happen. More trust, more letting go. And then there is a third one, Rudra Granthi, the knot of Rudra. The third Granthi is located in Agna. Some yoga practitioners place it at the level of Vishuddhi, between the eyebrows or between Vishuddhi and Agna. It is also called Shiva Granthi, the knot of Shiva. Attachment to siddhis, paranormal powers, is the great hindrance related to Agna chakra, and it creates this knot. In some people, these siddhis can develop. You will see that there is more siddhis that at this level you will have. You maybe just don't mentally know about them, but they are there. And they're not they don't have to be the common like, yes, you can teleport, you can fly, you can read people's minds. No. There's subtler ones, and we can talk about those. Rudra Granthi can be pierced only by the power of discernment between what is ephemeral, samsara, which is the phenomenal world, and what is eternal, nirvana, the absolute. Then detachment from siddhis occurs naturally. When this knot is surmounted, the ego consciousness is left behind, and the truth of oneness beyond individual consciousness is revealed. Again, if you read this to me or show this to me before, I would be like, hey, I don't get it. Or be like, yes, of course, that makes sense. Yes. But your mind might go, what? Or yes, I've studied this, I know. But there is nothing for your mind to get about this if you don't have the experience of it. So, simply put, this Granthi, or this knot, is where you have recognized that which you are, but it has not been properly digested. So as I said, on the level of Anahata, or in the Vishnu Granthi, there is the recognition of what you are. You experience that you are beyond the body, the mind. You start to have that, you have that first satori of seeing that you are none of this. But the mind, the ego, still plays. The identity and the belief sets in again. It can happen as if your mind, your ego, that gets blasted. So you can have like a month of being home, and then somehow your old identity and old things come back. But now you know that which you are not. And you see, and you have that wisdom and discernment. And I would say you have a choice. Now you either stay there or consciously undo yourself. Either you stay with somewhat knowing. It does feel like a choice of either staying as a person, as a sattvic, very good person, but still a person, or giving it up. Because now you know something more, yet the person is still there, so you just give up the person. There's many smaller realizations, being above reality, being beyond the time, the realization that you are everywhere, and you sense yourself in everything and in everyone, because there is nowhere where you are not. Many realizations like this, yet the person still plays. That identity power is still playing out within you, and it requires, as they said, can be pierced only by the power of discernment between what is basically samsara, unreal, and what is eternal, the absolute. Because now you have experienced the absolute. You recognize what it is. And the samsara, the phenomenal, you know, You can make a discernment. And only then the detachment occurs naturally. When this knot is surmounted, the ego consciousness is left behind, and the truth of the oneness beyond individual consciousness is revealed, seeing that there is no individuality, that there is no you and the other, that there is only one. That's the Granthis explained, and how to transcend them. On the Brahma, it feels like you are taking the action to go beyond. On the Vishnu, it is seeing that your actions no longer work, that the doer and the thinker which started all this is of no use anymore, so they get dropped. Then on the Rudra, I don't know what to say. I would say there is the feeling of this consciousness being individual, and the play of separation is still there due to the ego still being there. But the ego is in this subtlest sense. It is very subtle, but you can still see it. There is the identity with the observer, that the consciousness is the observer of it, and that's the one who is in the way. So then you drop even that one, and there is no observer, no thinker, no doer. There's no one there, no identity. The way you do it is with your discernment, seeing what you are not, while just being. That's the Granthis. Thank you, love you, and bye-bye.